Hello, everyone. It's a Wednesday, but it doesn't feel like a Wednesday. It's like we're in week 15, so we're almost to the end. I have mixed feelings about the presentations because, on one hand, I am exhausted right now. I mean, I don't look it right now, but I'm just mentally fatigued. I'm ready for summer along with you all. But I really do enjoy the presentations. You all do a really nice job with the presentations. I enjoyed the ones in AIS. I know I'm very enjoy the ones today. I enjoyed the ones on Monday. A lot of good things take part in that. So if it seems like that I'm not as involved, it has nothing to do with the presentations. The presentations are great. I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. It is just me. Okay, it's not you. That's basically where we're at. Before we get started today, I do want to quickly discuss what's happening next week. So, final exam is scheduled for 1:30 p.m. next Tuesday. Uh, as I said before, if you are in this class, you have the option of opting out of the final exam. And basically, that will probably end up being what your grade is posted as your expected grade for the courses. Again, I know I made light of it last time, but I want to reiterate the point. If you are enrolled in this class, all right, the answer is yes, you can opt out of the final exam. And if you email me and say, but what about this class that I missed? It's like, if you are enrolled in this class, you can opt out of the final exam. Everybody is going to be in that category right now. So if you want to not take the final exam, you don't have to. If you think that you would like to take the final exam in an effort to improve your grade, that is fine. Please let me know sooner rather than later, because I will make plans around that. Tuesday will be an especially busy day for me as we have one of our candidates for the dean position for the School of Business Professional Studies interviewing and visiting campus that day. I'm actually helping facilitate some of that visit, so our going to be running around a lot that day. So I don't want to minimize your experience if you want to take the exam, but I would like to know in advance. All right. Also, just as a reminder, if you are planning on opting out of the final exam, you do need to submit the summaries that you all are preparing. So by format, it doesn't really matter that much. It can be paragraphs, it can be bullet points, whatever. I would just like you to pay attention and be engaged in presentations. If you want to write this down and take a picture of it, put that online. That's fine too. Don't care. All right. I just want to make sure that you're engaged in the presentations and showing respect to your classmates. I recommend that you do that sooner rather than later as well. By the end of class on Friday, everybody should be in a position that they could actually upload that information. For some of you, for the guys and groups, the group that's going on Friday, you'll actually have your summaries done today, so you can upload those early. Counting on you. Don't let me down. Don't let me down. Luca looked away from me after I said that. I think you're going to let me down, Luca. We'll see. At least we're honest about it. All right. So please communicate with me if you have any issues about the final exam. If you have questions about it, that's fine too. I can let you know. And then make sure you get those summaries updated and uploaded. All right. So let's hear about data analytics and auditing and assurance. Classes.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Adrian.
I'm Drew.
I'm Ethan.
Anthony.
I'm Jonathan.
And our topic was data analytics and auditing and assurance. So starting out, we'll go over introduction, background, current status, future considerations, and conclusions. Just, what is this? So starting off with the introduction, I'm just going to explain what is data analytics because we've just taken an entire course on what is auditing. So hopefully everyone. So what is data analytics? The definition is interpreting and visualizing big data sets, transforming those data sets into meaningful insights, and then from those insights, concluding decisions. And there are many techniques that can be used in data analytics, such as statistical analysis and also machine learning. And it's aimed at analyzing past and current data to predict future trends, like seeing where things are going. The importance is to extract value from raw material called data to help with those future considerations. And then how does it work? So there are 5 things: data collecting, cleaning, transformation, modeling, visualization. But so gathering data, you can gather it from anywhere. So counts, logs, surveys. I guess for an auditing example, this would be like maybe an inventory file or like a sales log or something like that. And then for cleaning, you reduce the error, duplicates, missing values. So if there's an entry entered twice, you might remove that while preparing data. And transforming the data, you'll normalize it. So for instance, getting the date function how you want it instead of how it's entered into the system. And for the modeling, that's modeling and using algorithms. So you could use a regression to predict inventory trends, and then visualization, that would be like graphing that regression. So putting it into a pretty picture or something that not only you could read, but your client could read, or your client. And then the types of analysis would be descriptive, which is what is happening, diagnostic, which is why, predictive, which is what could happen, and then prescriptive, which is what should we do about it. And these are the type of data analysis tools used in auditing. Excel is used a lot. Power BI and Tableau are used for the visualization aspect. And then I know I really liked the function where it found missing values within the order of numbers. And then other ones include Access, which includes SQL. And then a lot of firms have their own software that they use. And then also you could have an IT specialist that would do that.
Now we're going to move on to the background. So data analytics and auditing has especially become more prevalent in the past decade, particularly with more big data, those large complex data sets, and advanced analytical tools becoming more prevalent. The integration of data analytics into auditing processes has shifted from the traditional methods of sample-based testing and manual review to more of analyzing an entire data set. This evolution has been driven from the increasing complexity of financial transactions, business systems like ERP and MRP, and the need for real-time insights from auditing processes. The scope has also changed for auditors to understanding how the outputs of decisions, rather than actually getting to those outputs from manual processes. So it's important to also look at the amendments and regulations that have changed. So as of 2025, there's been 2 amendments to 2 auditing standards. One is PCAOB Auditing Standards 1105, which focuses on audit evidence, and PCAOB Auditing Standards 2301, which is auditors' response to risk of material in their statement. And these are more related to incorporating technology-assisted analysis into the actual auditing standards as they were not before. To summarize what they do, because the amendments are very broad, it's basically just to introduce technology-assisted analysis into the standards. So they help keep auditing standards aligned with the evolving technology. They reduce the risk of audit opinions being issued without sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So basically just making sure that auditors aren't over-relying on these data analysis systems and actually using professional judgment and providing skepticism to the outputs that these systems are producing, and also gives auditors clear guidance, which reduces the reluctance to using these data analytical tools.
Yeah, moving on to the current status of data analytics, some changes within the audit field is the changes in the workforce. Like you need data analytic skills nowadays rather than just the basic knowledge of the accounting. Also with that, just how it works with the data, how to use those analytical skills and tools to interpret those trends, the results that it gives you. You need more technical and data-driven skills rather than just the basic knowledge nowadays. And it shifts from the traditional auditing rather than the one time a year at the end of year period, going to the company, doing that audit procedure that's very traditional. Nowadays with data analytics, you can do a method called continuous auditing, which we'll get into later. It just also helps just improve both accuracy and responsiveness for it. What's improving in audit due to the data analytics? you get faster and more accurate audits, which allows you to analyze entire databases instead of just small audits with like big data. You can identify errors faster, look at the trends, and see if there's any risks related to it. And it allows greater precision of the data and just finding those mistakes. Next is improved fraud detection. It detects unusual patterns, duplicates, and abnormalities. Next, cost reduction and efficiency. It reduces time spent as the manual audit. You have to go there in person. You can have a tool like Adrian was talking about, just set up and do it at a home office or an office back at your company. Then last, better risk assessment. It allows a focus on identifying higher risk areas and focusing on less effort needed for like going to the place and doing the audit. Also making the audit procedure more efficient overall.
Okay, so finally, we'll look at some future considerations. There's three primary kind of things I want to hit on here. First, kind of like Anthony was talking about, we're just going to see more of a transition to real-time and continuous assurance being offered by audit services, not just a year-end kind of thing. Then a movement from just descriptive applications of AI to more of a predictive, and then agentic AI also being implemented. And then finally, we'll also just look at what are the ethical kind of governance implications of these changes, and how does that impact auditors' roles in the future. So first, looking more into that transition to real-time and continuous assurance. So instead of just the traditional kind of end-of-year snapshot that we get, that we think of when we're thinking of an audit, and it's all in hindsight, these, especially AI, the application of AI and data analytics, is going to allow continuous auditing. So we're already seeing that somewhat in the current status, but those intervals between like what we call continuous, so like right now it might be like, every month we're going to do something because we have that capability. As just, as AI implementation especially just becomes more and more across the board, that kind of gap is just going to keep shrinking to points where it's like it's literally lifetime. Then this kind of comes largely from automated control testing. So it's a lot in the implementation of cloud-based ERP systems. Like I said, that's going to offer 24/7 monitoring of internal controls, because the data goes straight into that ERP and it can look through and flag failures as soon as they happen, rather than us going in and looking, months in hindsight. And this kind of leads us to a more proactive risk management style. So instead of waiting till the issues get big enough that we notice them in everyday kind of processes, real-time dashboards that management can look at will flag any kind of issues as they pop up, even if they're minor ones, and then get dealt with immediately, which also offers kind of rolling assurance for stakeholders. So then moving on, a lot of this is going to come from this like progression in data analytics is going to come from the application of AI. So we're going to move into like predictive and agentic uses of AI. So looking at predictive analytics as powered by AI, this involves looking at historical data, machine learning, and that's going to allow us to forecast risks. So it's already being implemented even in current day auditing, but that ability is just going to increase to make that risk forecasting even more accurate, and like I said, prevent issues before they escalate, rather than them getting to the point where we finally notice them. And then agentic AI, I've even seen this in some of the internships I've done, that this agentic AI is built into the systems, the processes that we're doing, not just an assistant that we go and we take and we fill it in on the situation, give it the data, and then it makes a decision. It's already built in, and it's working alongside of you, which will allow it just to be implemented into more complex tasks. So a lot of, like right now, AI can do like one particular task really well a lot of the time, and then you'll kind of have to feed it into like, how does that move to the next step or whatever. But agentic AI will be a lot more useful for like multi-step process. So in an audit, we're thinking of like document extraction and then kind of initial testing. That's just a couple examples. There's a lot of different applications of this. And then looking at how this will impact auditors too, it makes analytical procedures a lot more accessible. So like Adrian hit on, there's a lot of different softwares that auditors will use for their audits and running these analytical procedures. But that requires specialization. So not every person who's on an audit team is going to know how to code in SQL or something. But AI, and especially like some forms of agentic AI, just allow auditors to communicate with normal, human language what they want to get done, and the AI can interpret that into whatever kind of powerful tool, like putting in SQL code or something along those lines, allows all different levels of the audit team to be engaged in analytical procedures. And then finally, looking at what are the implications for ethical governance here, and for auditors as our role changes. So as clients use AI a lot more in their processes, we're no longer just going to be auditing kind of the client's decision making, how they put their transactions into their books or whatever it might be. We're also auditing their AI. If their AI is doing that, we're auditing them and the AI that they're using. So this requires us to just test different algorithms that maybe that the AI is using, or validating its logic. And then this also goes into managing black box risk. So just making sure that the AI is transparent with how it's getting its outputs. We're looking for hallucinations. Some of the big things with big issues with AI right now, biases that maybe were in historical data, then it's then extrapolating into the future. And then we can do this by evaluating AI models and working to implement human in the loop oversight. So rather than the AI doing every single step of the process on its own, at the end of each task that it might do, humans get involved in the process, review that output. That way we can check that the AI is on the right path and it's not making mistakes on the process. What this means for auditors is that our skill set is going to have to change. So kind of like Anthony was saying, because this is already a current thing, but it's just going to get more and more applicable to us, is data science knowledge. So as AI does more work, we have to understand it better. But this also requires new levels of professional skepticism. So I know that's like, some keywords that we've heard throughout our time in school. But a new level of professional skepticism is required for us to also know how to be skeptical of AI and its outputs. This also requires an understanding of ethical implications of AI. Just what are some of the ethical issues related to how it's implemented in audits. So that is all that I had for the future. And then moving on to Drew.
Moving on for a conclusion, data analytics is no longer optional, it's foundational in auditing. Right now, analytics is driving faster decisions, better risk identification, and more efficient audits. As we look into the future, that shift is towards real-time assurance, predictive analysis, and AI-driven tools that will fundamentally shape the auditor's role. As the standards are evolving, tech is evolving, so the auditors must evolve with these standards. Ultimately, data analysis transfers raw info into insights, strengths, and audit quality, and prepares the profession for a future where AI literacy and ethical governance is very important, just as traditional accounting skills. This is where the direction the profession is heading, and why embracing data analytics is now essential for every auditor in this field. And thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Always. All right, so Drew alluded to this, and it was kind of a theme throughout the presentation, but I wanted to kind of discuss the concept of risk with respect to data analytics. The idea being is that if we have constant access to information, obviously that's a boon with respect to auditors. What is the trade-off that we have to experience with having constant access to this information?
There's the possibility of a lot of misuse of data. There's also greater risk of data breaches. And then unauthorized access is another thing, because a lot of these powerful data analytical systems require a lot of data in order for them to actually be more benefit than their cost. And with this is the ease of access that a lot of people can just look at the data without, even though they shouldn't be looking at the data or utilizing the data. And that is one of the big.
Your question was,
What's the trade-off like? So for having better access to data, what are we giving up?
oh yeah. So yeah, I know what you said. Like just like exposing to more risk of, like not properly, like maybe people having the wrong access to it. I think the benefits though, like we shared kind of, it's just you have to keep applying internal controls and those kind of have to be adjusted as the risks change. But yeah.
All right, so this is not directly relevant to presentation, but I do want to talk about it because it was part of the presentation. So you mentioned the move to ERPs based on cloud computing, and this is a little bit of an old statistic. It's actually from 2021, but it was a cybersecurity summit that President Biden held, which we may or may not talk about in advanced AIS next. He mentioned that at the time there was a shortage of 500,000 cybersecurity professionals. Now, given the exposure to risk that we just talked about, should we be encouraging clients to become more transparent and more visible with respect to their data, or should we be telling them to scale back?
I mean, I think you never want to like put brakes on, advancements in fields just because there are risks, because there's always risks when new technology comes around. And I do think, like, I think obviously, regulations do need to like be put in place, and we do need to make sure that, there's not like detrimental kind of risks that we're just ignoring. But I don't think you can even recognize all the risks that will come with, whatever it is, like implementation of AI, of cloud-based, ERP systems or whatever, unless you allow it to grow and to those risks to be exposed. If you hold it back too much, then I don't think you'll ever even see like some of the risks that might pop up later. Like you think you've covered all your bases, and then you let it go, and all of a sudden it's like, well, we were holding it back so long, we didn't even recognize these risks. So I think just kind of it's just a typical kind of new risks with new technology issue that is kind of always going to be there. It's just I think holding it back too much won't even let us figure out all the risks.
So you mentioned continuous auditing, which you maybe shouldn't have mentioned that because that's a trigger word for me. Not in a bad way, actually. I actually used to work on continuous auditing, continuous monitoring back when I worked at KPMG. It's actually a concept that's about 20 years old. Given what you talked about in your presentation about the use of continuous auditing or possibility of a continuous auditing, do you think that this is a substitute or a complement for traditional auditing?
I would say
Definitely got it.
yeah. The reason being, like, human oversight is always going to be a human oversight, especially in this kind of data analytics era, is going to be more important because of all the biases that John mentioned. You can have outputs that are not explainable. You can have an over-reliance if you just agree with the output. There's also an accountability aspect. Human judgment and human oversight is always going to be a thing. So I think it will be a complement rather than a substitute, because AI will eventually get things wrong, or data analytic tools that rely on AI will eventually get something wrong, and that can have a negative effect on stakeholders that rely on it.
Also, unless like regulations change, like year reporting is still required, by law too. So it's like those audits are going to happen as well at year end. It'll make it easier, I guess, if throughout the whole year there was continuous assurance, but like those reports all still need to happen at the end of the year anyway. And obviously you don't have all your information about the year until the end of the year. So nothing stops until then. So yeah, I think it could make the process easier at year end. But unless, regulations change and all of a sudden you can just give an update whenever you want in the year or something, which obviously comes with its own issues. I think it'll just be a compliment.
And so last question, and I apologize to group in the back. This story didn't come out until yesterday, so I would have asked this question to you all had I said this story. But there was actually a story, and I only read the headline. I've got the news link upstairs on my email. It was about how Claude actually deleted an entire database of a company, and then said that it did it to enhance security protocols because it was being utilized as kind of a supplement to the accounting information system. Obviously, we can't go without using AI, but given some of the nightmare scenarios that we worry about, how do we convince stakeholders that we are effective in our role as auditors, especially given the new technologies that are going to be incorporated within clients and within our procedures.
I think just like proving that we can not be completely reliant on AI. Like mentioned, you have to have some data analysis tool, like as an auditor. And so I think really bringing that to light and being like, okay, we're looking at what the AI is telling us, but we're also being very skeptical about what it is giving us. So I don't know. Yeah, still having your CPA and stuff, like you have to prove your credentials as an auditor still. But yes, like not letting AI do everything.
So is it kind of similar to the human in the loop that they talked about on Monday?
Don't know.
It's online, yeah. You can watch every video that I put on.
No.
I mean, there's the over reliance, especially if all the data is so concentrated, there's always that risk that you could lose your data like that. But having like separate database systems in cold or hot sites allows you to be able to recover that data that AI could potentially just remove. So just having a disaster relief plan, or because I would consider an AI deleting a whole database a disaster if that would happen. So having a disaster recovery plan in place when you're doing strategic planning would probably be the right.
All right, other questions? All right, nice work.
Very safe. Nobody could find it.
Nobody can, yes, that'll be fine. All right. We are done for our second to last day. We have one more class session and UCLE, right, guys? All right, looking forward to that, and we'll see you all then.
How many times have you had?
Maybe before going.
But there were five, I was like.